Before today's episode, I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and recognise their continued connection to the beautiful land and sea. I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and I extend this acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the land my listeners are on. Welcome to Ritual the Podcast, your cottage in the woods. A sacred space for the witches, the healers, the magical folk to meet and speak of wisdom, witchery, and old world magic, where people come to learn, to hear stories, to share secrets, and to be free to be their true selves. Welcome to Ritual.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Ritual the Podcast. I'm your host, Paddy Harvey, and today my guest is someone, if you're a regular listener anyway, you'll all be familiar with. My guest today is Amy Harvey. Amy, hello and welcome to the podcast.
Hello. This is a bit topsy-turvy.
It's a wee bit weird this week. How's everything going?
Good. Everything's good.
How you feeling?
I feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I feel like we're in Stranger Things. Like everything's upside down.
This is the upside down. It is. Well,
it's terrifying. It's unusual.
And I'm a very attractive 35-year-old woman.
What's going on today, Paddy? It's a bit different.
It's a bit weird. Look, thought that for this episode we might do things a wee bit different, and that I would interview you, because everyone wants to know more about you. It seems to be a lot of the feedback that we get. I read Amy's messages. No,
he doesn't.
I thought maybe it'd be good if I interviewed you.
Yeah. That sounds fun. It is killing me a little bit because you won't show me the questions.
I haven't shown her the questions. I wrote them.
I at least give my guests the decency of giving them a vague look at their questions.
No. Do they?
Thank you. I do, yeah.
Do they? Oh, great.
To be, nice and whatever, but that's fine if that's how you want to run a show, then.
Well, as someone we met recently said, without much further to do.
Who said that?
I'll tell you after. It's someone who shouldn't. Who should use English a little bit better than what they did. Without much further to do, should we start? Should we just get straight into it?
Okay.
Amy, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay, go for it.
I'll ask you a series of questions, actually. Start off with the classic. What is your morning ritual?
Okay. On an ideal day, so let's say not at the moment, because at the moment I'm on morning sickness medication, so I am very sleepy. But if it wasn't that, and it was my ideal morning, I like to wake up before everybody else. I like the quiet. As I've said a million times, I call myself an extroverted introvert, where I really recharge by myself. And I find that often, especially when you have kids, that can be quite difficult to do. You aren't an introvert.
No.
You're an extrovert. So you're happy to be around people all the time, where I am not. And that's like no disrespect to anybody. I just need my alone time. So I find that waking up early gives me that, but I also really enjoy waking up with the day. I really enjoy the liminal time between the day and the night, and I love just the sounds that you hear. I find all of that really peaceful and very magical. So I will always try and get up before the sun. So usually it would be on an ideal day like 5:30. I know that probably makes some people want to die, but I really like getting up then.
Yeah.
If I have the energy, I'll always do like a yoga with Adrienne. She's like my absolute favorite yoga person on YouTube. You've done a few of hers.
She's great.
She's so funny and she kicks your butt, but I always like to start the day like I've achieved something already. So I'll do that because I think if you start the day by achieving something like that, whether it's yoga or whatever kind of exercise you enjoy, you automatically start off at a high, and you've like started the day with this like sense of achievement. And I think it just kind of like puts you in that positive mindset rather than like sleeping in or making an excuse, and then you start the day with like a almost putting yourself down, like, oh, why didn't I do that?
Yeah, right.
You know, like I love that feeling of like achieving something and you like have points on yourself already, in a not like egotistical way, but like in a me way.
I would never. No, that's not egotistical. I know what you mean. I feel like that about having a cold shower.
Yeah.
Because I go, like, there's some days where I go, I just don't want to do this, and then I go, but it really does help, and I have one, and then I go, well, that's done.
Yeah.
And now I can get on with the day. No, I think that's a really lovely thing to say, because you're doing something for yourself, not only for yourself mentally, physically, but you're allowing yourself that time for you. And you know, I mean, some people, you know, the biggest victory they have in the morning is literally just getting out of bed for whatever reason, but whatever that reason is, or whatever that thing is, that you get that we start to the day where you go, right, I'm off and running.
I did something good.
Yeah, I did something. Yeah, definitely.
So I'll do that. I also really love starting off with like I love subliminals. So if you don't know what that is, a good example of it is my friend Stephanie Keith, who runs the podcast Law of Attraction Tribe. She has these things called subliminals, where basically it's like beautiful music, and there are affirmations put in it that are sped up so fast that you can't hear them at all.
They're also at a different frequency.
They're at a different frequency.
Tap into your subconscious.
And they repeat like thousands of times in the song. And I love starting the day with that while I write in my journal, whether it's like cards that I've pulled, or if I'm writing my own affirmations, or I'm writing like my like manifesting stuff for the day. I love like starting that, because whatever magic she's put in that, it really puts you in this cool mindset of like, today's going to be really positive, this is going to happen, I feel really great. And yeah, so that, like, on an ideal day, you can change the order around sometimes, but they're the things I love to do to start my day.
Great.
Yeah.
And I know you've kind of touched on that, but like, you know, ideal day, but what would be like the perfect morning?
The perfect
Like,
morning?
yeah, the perfect morning.
Till what time? What time are you looking here?
Like first thing until 8, 9. No, let's take it up to about 11, like 12, heading towards lunch. Like, what would like a perfect morning look like?
Ooh.
It's Saturday.
Okay. So first of all, everyone would be in a really good mood. Like a really a really chilled mood. And the weather would be really cool too. Like beautiful sunny morning. So I would do all those things that I said without interruption, ideally. And then the kids might decide they want to sleep in a little bit. Even better. And then having like that like first cup of coffee that's like perfect, you know, that like it's like just the perfect temperature, the perfect amount of milk, like everything about it is amazing. So sitting outside,
right,
and having that, which we do often in the summer, we sit outside and have our coffee, and it's so nice, and the kids are just like chilled and watching something, and then going for a walk.
Yeah.
And listening to a podcast or nothing. We've been embracing the listening to nothing lately. Just like listening to nature.
That's so nice.
Like where we live is so beautiful, and there's like 100 different birds in the street. So just like walking down the street and listening and looking and going for this beautiful walk, and then everyone's just like gets ready on the first time I ask.
It seems to be it's like if all the behavior was worked out, it'd be
like
perfect.
I said, everyone's in a good mood.
Yeah.
And then like going to like a market, like a farmer's market, and getting like fresh strawberries and like something yummy, like I don't know, something yummy to eat. And then the day is just like kind of flows from there. That would
Clean house.
The house is already clean. It just
Spotless.
it cleaned itself.
It's spotless.
It cleaned itself.
Yeah.
That would probably be like the best morning.
Love it. And if you were by yourself, the same sort of vibe.
Chuck a bath in there, maybe.
Chuck a bath in, she says.
But
Very
yeah,
good.
it'd be pretty much the same.
What first called you to your witchy ways? Now I know you've touched on this in another podcast, but for those who haven't heard, what brought you to this path?
I think it's always been there without the label. Like I've always been, even as a kid, I was really into crystals. I wanted to be a geologist at one point because I loved learning about crystals and like all the different kinds you can find. And that was when I was like 7. And then like, you know, obviously you go through I watched like Charmed and The Craft and Practical Magic, and I had my own like Book of Shadows, and I've always been very into like magical things, like magical movies or fairies or unicorn whatever. Like I've always just loved that kind of stuff. But then as I got into adult world, I think it's like always kind of like come and go without me realizing what it was. So I would like go into Spellbox in the city, which is like a witchy shop in Melbourne, when I was working in the city on my break, just to like look around because I was just like super drawn to it. And then, or I'd like, buy a crystal or whatever. There was always like something, but I never really knew what it was. And so growing up, I went to an Anglican school, but never clicked with being Christian. That's Christian, yeah. Never really clicked with it. Never really believed in God, but I'd always I believe in something, I just don't know what it is at all.
Yeah.
So I kind of always had this like hole in my belief system, or I guess that would be your soul, wouldn't it? There's your mind. There's a hole somewhere.
Yeah, like your spiritual
A spiritual hole,
plug.
pretty much.
Was like there was a socket there. We didn't know what was going in it.
None of the puzzle pieces fit that I had
Yeah.
found, and so I found that once I became a mum, I had this idea of what I thought my life would be. Like I've always been like, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom and this is what my life will look like and da-da-da-da-da. It literally didn't work out like that. Not because I didn't want to, but because I am a very motivated person. I'm very driven. I've always had like 5 things that I want to do or like achieve or whatever.
It's true.
And I thought that being a mum would kind of fulfill all of that. And as much as it's very fulfilling, that's like mum life. Like I always believe that you have 3 different kinds of life. You have one where it's like you and your partner, that's your life. One where it's you and your children. And then you have your own identity.
Totally.
And I felt like that part of me was still missing, but even more so. And we were going through a very like difficult time, not like with each other, but just there was like so much shit going on. There was a lot of drama. I was very overwhelmed with having a baby and being pregnant with another one, and everything was just really intense. And
yeah, there was a lot of it was a lot of
it was a
personal
low point.
stuff happening with and many things.
And
We were
so many
always
directions.
good, but all the externals.
I just felt very lonely. And not with, like, obviously I had Patty, but in my own life, I just felt very lost.
And we were living, you know, way down the peninsula, and we didn't really have anyone down there either. And yeah, I think with one car.
Yeah.
You know,
it was a really tough time.
Yeah, and I think for you, you know, for me looking at you, you know, as much as you say, yeah, okay, being a parent is rewarding in itself, but you need your own identity. You need to retain some of yourself, because without having yourself, you're just living for everyone else and not for you. And also then you go, well, what happens whenever it's just me? As in, like,
well, that's why often mums or dads have like a mental breakdown when their kids move out, because they have no idea who they are.
Well, that's right. They haven't done, and also, you know, even with as a couple, you know, just being parents all the time,
it's not enough.
We need to also remember that, you know, you were a couple.
Here first.
Yeah,
you were, you know, I was by myself before I was even with you.
Totally. So, and then it was us, and then it was us and them. Yeah.
And so I just felt really, I felt that hole felt even more open, I guess. And so then I remember I've told this story a million times, but anyway,
but it's a good story.
I was searching around in the rabbit hole of YouTube for I don't even know what, and this video popped up by Harmony Nice called like what is Wicca or witchcraft or something. And I was like, that's a good question. What is that? Because I had always been kind of like drawn to that kind of stuff, but never understood more than basic levels. And so I clicked on it, and the way she described it was basically how my mind works, like working with the seasons, connecting with nature. Like I'm a very seasonal person. I have always been one to celebrate every little notch of the year, whether it be Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day, summer, autumn, whatever. And then I was like, oh my God, people actually do that as like a belief system? That's fucking sick. And so then I spent hours just like watching everything that she had done. And I was like, I literally feel like you are speaking my brain. Like everything you're saying is exactly how I'm feeling. And there's a name for it. That's what I feel like I am. And so then I remember you came home and I was like, and just like spat out all this stuff. And I'm like, and I found this class where it's like a free like workshop where they like talk about what witchcraft is, and I really want to go. And so when I did, again, it was just this like confirmation of everything I already believed, but with a name for it. And it kind of just went from there. Like the more I learnt, I never got sick of it. I've always wanted to learn more. Like even now, I'll always be reading something or learning something, and I found this like new confidence in myself, and this like what's the word? Like I'm so sure of it, and usually I like can be a little bit influenced by other people's judgment. I felt like, I don't know, I'd kind of like shy away and be like, oh, like I'd just let other people's thoughts kind of knock me around. But the more I have dived into this, the more I'm like, I actually don't give a shit what you think. Like this makes me feel so whole that you can believe whatever you want, because I'm like 100% in what I believe. And then, you know, you meet other people who feel the same way, and it kind of just like went from there.
It's I remember that day that you came home, or that I came home, and you were talking to me about it, and I was born and raised a Catholic. I mean, I wasn't practicing at that point anyway, and it was a massive part of my upbringing because of where I lived. It was who you were, whether you were practicing or not. It was an identity.
Yeah.
And so I remember you saying that this witchcraft thing, and I was going, what is it? I was like, what is it? Because, you know, I only knew it was beat into me as a kid.
Well, we all have that
Yeah.
in our brains,
that
which
sort of
is
misconception. Yeah.
whatever people think.
And then you spoke more about it, and I was like, oh wow, that sounds really actually quite nice. And then you went, I'm going to go to this class, and then you went, and then when you came back and told me all about it, and then that was the thing. I think there's a big sign, and that was what I was going to ask you as well. Like, when did you know you felt like you belonged? Because, and I just from what you'd said, I suppose you've already touched on it. You know, you felt like the plug had gone into the outlet. Something had been switched on, and that thirst continues because, you know, people have fads and phases where they go, oh, like this, and then after a while they go, nah.
Yeah.
But if you've constantly got this thirst and this hunger
you're
for it,
feeding your soul.
then that's obviously a call, and that's obviously something that is like it either always has been, or you didn't realize it was, but it's a calling for you, and it's calling you to be a part of it for whatever reason. But no, I think that's probably the case with a lot of people, is they're going, I don't know what it is, but it's something. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what I believe, but it's something. And I don't agree with these very strict constructs of what organized religions can do. Some people love it, and that's great.
And
like,
if that works, that works.
so
But
some
this
people
is
love
like,
that, and some people go. So, you know, some people, you know, I've got an auntie went through the same thing, experienced a really bad tragedy, and then became a born again Christian, and that was it for her. She was like, "That's what I want. This is my life." And fair play to you, if that's what it is that does it. But I feel like because the more traditional upbringing is organized religion, you know, whether it be Christianity or Judaism or whatever, but then you get people that sort of go, nah, this doesn't work for me, and then they find something else, like, you know, witchcraft, and they go, that's what it is. And how amazing, because you know, obviously I've known you for quite a while now, but knowing that you liked all that stuff, and knowing that you would talk about even manifesting, and you had an oracle deck or something like that.
I have that mermaid oracle deck was my very first one.
But that was way before anything.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm not telling you that. Next question. We would like to know, and you have touched on this earlier on. So you did mention about, you know, you always thought about what people thought. So initially, how did you feel about what the people in general would feel or think, versus how do you feel now about the obvious,
about being a witch,
about getting involved in it, practicing, and yeah, because I know a lot of people put a lot of pressure on, like, oh, I'm gonna have a coming out of the broom closet party and things like that, and that's fine if you want to do that, but I mean, I feel like if anything, you're just making a big deal of something that actually doesn't have to be a big deal if it's so common.
This is the thing, is even though, like, I can be very, like, I don't give a shit about, like, what people think, but
you're like that with me anyway.
Yeah.
You don't give a shit what I think.
Shut up. But I feel like the older I've gotten, the more I've become this way.
Well, yeah.
But I think I have always been a very sensitive Leo, where it's like you can appear to be very confident, but you soak in people's words very much. And so I think when I first, like, kind of went down this path, I, of course, was very, like, uncertain about what people would think, because everyone has that idea of what a witch is, which is like the stereotypical, like, maybe it's like, you know, the people that dress like really goth and have like dark, you know, energy and I don't know.
Devil worshippers.
Devil worshipping.
Big nose, green skin.
Pretty much. Like the stereotypical stuff you hear from people. I think, of course, that's going through your mind, because we all had those thoughts at some point.
Yeah. Well, Disney did a very good job of that.
Yes.
And all the stories.
But then I think, I mean, I don't know. I probably, do I even have those thoughts anymore? Probably not. I think when I started my business was probably the biggest time where I was like, oh my God, like once I kind of like really talk about the fact that I'm doing this, people are going to know. But by that point, I had really changed a lot of like friendships in my life, and I had kind of found people who made me feel very like confident, and they were very supportive, and they were also, some of them were they were either witches or very open to stuff like that, whether it be psychics or whatever,
or just easygoing people,
or just very open-minded people.
You had a bit of a couple of bad runs with certain people, and
yes, they knocked me a bit, but then you find good ones, and you go that, like, all that stuff helps. So I think I kind of just like I went through the approach of like, do I do this? Do I say this? What if people like make fun of me? What if people laugh? What if whatever? But then I kind of like, this was around the time of COVID as well, when COVID really hit, is when I started my business properly, because before then this was something I just did for myself. And I'm not the most like outspoken person when it comes to my personal life. Like, I usually keep things about myself quite quiet. I'm not usually one to kind of throw information about my thoughts and feelings unless it's kind of necessary. I'm just more of a private person. So it had been easy to kind of like not hide, but keep that, my witchy part, to myself, where by starting a business, you're basically saying to the world, hello, I'm a witch and I'm running a business that's to do with witchcraft, which is a little bit daunting. But by this point, I had 2 kids. We're going into a pandemic. And I was kind of just like, and I'd been through all these like shitty friendships and all this drama that I was talking about before. Like,
would you have started the business in May or March that year?
I think
20,
so.
yeah,
but I think like, it was just this big combination of stuff, and I think all of that made me go, you know what, like, I just don't give a shit. And I already had negative people in my life who were judgy and made me feel crap for just being a person, let alone being a witch. So I was kind of like, well, if they're going to do that, like, fuck them. Like, I don't care. Like, if you're going to judge me, that says more about you than it does about me, because I don't give a shit what you think. Unless you're a serial killer, like, I don't care what you do or what you believe. So I expect the same in return. And if you don't do that, then I don't want you to be my friend anyway. So I think, because you also go like, what would I tell my kids if this was them and they were going through the same thing? What would I say? I'm like, well, then I'm going to say the same thing to myself. So
what, I mean, look, we've had this conversation a ton of times, and it's every time it sparks something. It's like, yes, okay, moments where you have to do things that are daring and risky are scary, but ultimately, like, it doesn't really matter. None of this matters. None of it matters as long as what you're doing is good for yourself and makes you happy and you're not hurting anyone. So do whatever the fuck you want. As long as you're not hurting anyone, and that's kind of it. And also, if like you say, if people don't want to come along for the ride, that's totally fine. It might be like, and it's not just like cut and burn.
You're gonna meet other people.
I'm not talking about cut and burn, because I know a lot of people are like that. They're a bit like, well, if you don't like my ways, then fuck you. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is like, if someone would say change their opinion of you and treat you differently as a result of this or whatever, then you just go, maybe you're not one of my people.
And it sets boundaries as well to say, this is what I expect from a friend, from a family member, from whoever, a partner. I expect this level of open-mindedness and respect as I would give you. And if you can't do that, then that's fine. Like, if you disagree with what I believe in, that's fair enough. It just
but
means
if things
that
change between us, then that's different.
Yeah.
Now, I've got mates, one of my best mates. He and I are very opposite. We have debates about everything. He's one of my best mates. And he's also like 20 years older than me. But, you know, I'm godfather to one of his kids. I was best man at his wedding. He was one of my groomsmen. You know, that's fine. But if it's causing conflict and if it's causing problems, then
if
there's
judgment comes into it,
and there's
then there's
an
an
issue. But ultimately, none of this matters. I was speaking to someone, we were filming the other day, and the person we were shooting, she was a bit nervous about being on camera, and she kept tongue twisting herself. And I went, do you know what? And this is one of my directing techniques. I was like, do you know what? Everyone who watches this video one day is gonna die. No one gives a shit.
Well,
I said, so there's no need to be embarrassed because it doesn't matter. All we want you to do is talk about whatever we were talking about at the time. And she was like, that's a really valid point. I'm like, you know, if you were to walk into a shop tomorrow and go, and everyone turns around and looks at you and you walk out, they're gonna, in 2 minutes later, they're gonna be like, that was weird. Now, that person who did that, right? That person who did the yodeling in the shop could pass away tomorrow. And that's it. It doesn't matter that they ever did that.
Yeah. Well, this is another
They
thing is
punched
that
a homeless person. Different.
we are all going to die. So imagine getting to your last moments and going, did I do the things that really made me happy? Did I do the things that were really true to who I was? Or did I waste my life worrying about what people may or may not even think, and that stopped me from doing it? Because those people may not even give a shit.
But you also live in somebody else's life.
Exactly. So I might as well live my life and learn the lessons that come with it, learn the people who are going to come along with it. And then when I get to the very last day, I can go, yeah,
I did it all.
I did what I wanted to do, and I lived the life that was meant to be for me. And now I can die peacefully.
Yeah, not wondering. That's the thing. Like, you know, like, I mean, it gets into a tricky topic, but there's, you know, obviously people that have live their lives a certain way that society looks down on, or judges or whatever, and that, you know, obviously, you know, paganism is one of those, and there are people that would squash that and kill it and go, nah, that's not me, for fear of, as I say, you live in somebody else's life because you're wondering about what they would approve of and whatnot. Who's to say they're right? It's like your parents, you know, because my parents said X, they might not have been right. They're all guessing the same way as we're all guessing opinion. How to live. And you're right, you know, you might get to the end and then go, I never really got to do the stuff I really wanted to do, a thing, or I really wanted to be that type of person.
We're all given the gift of a life, and why would you not live it?
Totally.
Like, who really cares?
Who
really cares?
That's right. And that's the thing. So you go, oh, that person doesn't like me, and you go, okay, there's 7.5 billion people on the planet.
One of them will like me.
Well, there's a good chance a ton of them will, yeah. So why bother? You know, and it's so short. Like, time's so short that, like, you can just,
well, you don't even know when.
Worry about the things that don't matter, and then you get to the end, you go, oh shit, I worried a lot.
I know.
That was jeez. They were a lovely person, but they worried a lot.
I know.
But, you know, I mean, obviously there's different circumstances. Like, there's people that would be, you know, who might say, I'm going to get shunned from my family, and you go, okay, and they go, but I love my family, and you go, yeah, and that must be really difficult, but they're preventing you from being you. So if they were your family and they loved you and cared for you, then you would imagine that they would want
they'll
what's
find
best
a
for
way
you.
back to you.
I can't imagine anything our kids would do. I mean, if our kids murdered somebody, I'd be pretty pissed off about
I'd
it.
be a
But
bit
like,
disappointed.
I can't imagine much that they would do that I would be like, right, that's it. You're not my
I
child
would at
anymore.
least have an open conversation about it, you know?
If I didn't agree with it, I'd be like, all right, why? Because X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, that's actually fair enough. I wouldn't be like, right, that's it. You're out of the family, or, I mean, and that happens to people.
I know, all the time.
Yeah.
It's really sad. So, yeah.
Right. So you just don't give a shit.
As much.
So since all this has started, what has been the most magical thing that has happened to you? Like, and it can be anything, but what's the most magical thing that has occurred
in my own practice?
while you were practicing?
Oh my gosh. See, this is why you need to prep
You can name three
so
then.
I can think of things, because you know what I'm like. It's like trying to pick a movie. You go,
I wanted you to think I was going to ask really shit, like
No, I knew you'd ask
questions like, what type of cheese do you like?
Let me think.
Brie, Dauphinoise.
It's hard because there's so many things. Also,
All right. What was the first big magical thing that happened to you that you went, holy shit, I just did that? Or holy shit, that just happened?
you know what I think is one of the, like, I mean, obviously there's that one I've talked about a million times with the, like, sparkle thing in the sky. That, to this day, like, still blows my mind because I don't understand how that happens. But I think it's like there's like so many little moments where you feel your like third eye brain or your witchy mind start to expand and things start to come in. So that could be like, remember the night I woke up and I thought you were crying in the study. I could hear a man crying and I thought it was you. And I like went in and had a look and there was literally no one in there and you were asleep next to me. And I was like, whoo, that's a bit freaking spooky. But then from then on, like I would start to hear things or like my intuition really like peaked. So it was like cool little things like that. But then also, you know, just like moments when I'll have like a meditation and then I do a card reading afterwards and everything perfectly aligns.
Yeah.
So you have these like really like cool synchronicities, and I think even like to this day when that happens, like I always get this like it always makes me laugh because I'm like, you can't even write that shit. Like you cannot write it.
I know some of the stuff you tell me, I'm like,
It sounds insane. And the fact that it's like happening right in front of you, you're like, how could you not want to be a witch? It's so cool. Like all these cool things happen all the time and you just like laugh because you go, that's insane that this is even happening. But it just did. And it happened last week as well. And it's probably going to happen next week. So I think there's like nothing like really big. There probably is, and I totally can't remember it because I have no iron in my body and my brain doesn't function anymore. But I think it's just like all those like little moments where you just like laugh and go, that's literally so perfect. I couldn't make that up.
do you remember, and there's a lot of these from you definitely, do you remember when we lived in Safety Beach and you cast a circle and Buttons was with you?
No, it was Norman.
Oh, was it Norman?
It was Norman. He came in and sat with me. Like the very first time I ever cast a circle, Norman came down and sat next to me in it. And then when I finished and I opened the circle, he got up and left. And it was like, yeah, he knew that he was in something special and he didn't leave. And if you know Norman, like he doesn't care about anything.
He doesn't really care about much.
He will ruin your magical practice and not bat an eyelid. But
he'll ruin your yoga practice.
Definitely he sits on my yoga mat in my face, doesn't care. But in this like situation, it's like he knew something special was going on.
Yeah.
He sat and waited, and I opened it, and then he left. So that was pretty cool.
I remember the night you told me that, and I was like, holy shit, maybe she's onto something here. Uh, um, what yeah, right. This is one that probably gets asked a lot by people. What? How do you, in amongst kids, me, business, me, and the kids, and friends and family? How do you find fitting in practice for yourself? Like what? Ideally you'd want to be doing it all the time, but like,
Yeah.
what? Like, how do you fit it in?
I think, you know what? I think I used, and I probably still have moments of this, and I'm sure you would agree, is I used to put a lot of pressure on myself to be like the best witch ever. And like, if there was a Sabbath, it had to be this big thing, and I had to like, you know, make a big celebration of it, and if I didn't, I would get so upset and so disappointed. Or if there was a full moon, like, I would really like beat myself up and go, why didn't I do anything for it? Meanwhile, I'm running a business, having kids, doing all this stuff, and it kind of like took the enjoyment out of it, which in turn made me even more disappointed that I'd kind of like sabotaged my own practice. And so I think one thing that I've really learnt now is that even the most simple things are still a thing. Like even, and I was talking to my friend Michelle about this the other day because we were coming up to Astara and we were both like, what are you doing for it? And she was like, I actually have no idea. And I'm like, I don't know either. Like, it's just been so busy. I don't know what to do. And we were like, you know what? I think like even acknowledging the fact that it is a Stara is something. Like even like waking up and going, today is a Stara. It's such a beautiful day. Look at all those beautiful flowers outside. Like it's coming
Just
into
acknowledging
spring. It's really nice. And acknowledging the fact that this is where we are in the wheel, that's something. And people often like don't think that. But that's more than you would have done before you were a witch. You know, I didn't even know what a Stara was.
Yeah, exactly.
So just like really simplifying it often finds the most beauty in it as well. And you find that it's kind of like a domino effect because you've like gone, you know, for example, use a Stara again. Today is a Stara, and then you start to notice like, wow, there's so many beautiful flowers out today. Oh wow, like look at the trees, like they look even more green than they did because it's a Stara. Like that's really cool. And you start to like notice more things, and then maybe you might make something and go, I'm gonna add like a little bit of this and that in it because that's kind of a Stara vibes. And so you know what I mean? Like it kind of dominoes from that.
It's just everyday magic.
Everyday magic is the most important magic. And like if you can do a big ritual or a big spell thing or whatever, like, you know,
Great.
A+, that's awesome. And, you know, we all should make time to do that every once in a while. But it's the everyday magic that kind of like keeps your witchy soul alive, I think.
And it's like you're feeding it as well.
Yeah.
Because you're acknowledging it.
Like you think of a fireplace, you don't just dump a log on it like all the time.
Yeah.
You just add to it over time, and that's what keeps the fire going.
Yeah.
And every once in a while you will put a big piece in and that kind of like slowly burns up, but it's those little pieces that get it going.
Yeah. The acknowledging things like that is something that you can do because life is hectic for everyone, right? One thing though I will say is that since the start of this podcast, and I remember I don't know when it was, somewhere at the start of the year, and you said, oh, I haven't really done anything to organize it, and I said, you just did an hour and a half podcast.
Yeah.
Like you wrote notes, you're
sharing it with other
you're
people.
sharing it with other people, and that's another thing as well. Every time you release a ritual box, like you're sharing the
My
joy of
magic
that
with other people.
Sabbath, with other people. So
Yeah.
you're talking about it, you're informing people about it, you're answering questions, you're writing out notes, you're putting all the ingredients
true.
together. It may not be for you, and I know that I bought you candles the other day for Halloween because you don't want to make them all the time. But like, you know, it's good to not just give it away all the time to other people. But the acknowledging it is super, and even as you say, just that overall general mindfulness of seasons and moon and animals, nature, what's going on outside. Like, there's people that I was talking to funny the other day, and they were like, "Oh, when's spring is it?" And I'm like, "Oh, spring started 2 weeks or a week and a half ago," and I knew exactly when it started. And I'm like, "Gee, I would never have known that years ago. I would have just tripped through the year and then gone, oh, it's summer again."
It
Like,
just like makes these like simple things have a
it
little
gives
bip more
meaning.
depth to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, fuck yeah, yeah,
Yep.
definitely love it, love it. What do you love most about me? Oh, I don't know how that got in there.
I didn't even know where to start.
What do you love most about me?
Again.
Oh no, hold on, I'll delete that one. What's your favorite food?
What's my favorite food?
Yeah, just thought I'd throw that one in there.
Oh, let me think. That's a tricky
Like,
one.
let's do breakfast. What's your favorite breakfast?
Oh, at the moment, my favorite breakfast is yogurt with strawberries and granola. That's like my absolute favorite thing. But I also am very partial to poached eggs, sourdough toast with some avocado, mushrooms, and halloumi. And hollandaise sauce.
And a bit of hollandaise, baby. What is your favorite lunch? Like, give me your favorite lunch.
I love a good sandwich.
You do love a good sandwich, don't you? You always go back to the sandwiches.
Yeah, like they're just, they hit the spot. You can't go past a good sandwich.
Ingredients, please.
Oh my gosh. Maybe chicken. Some avo. Some cheese. Some dill.
Oh,
dill and mayo. Bit of Dijon.
Bit of Dijon.
What else do I put in there? Yeah, that's about it.
Bit of love. Snack.
Popcorn.
Done. Dinner. Night.
Dinner's a
This is
tricky
a tricky one. Just maybe go top 3 cuisines.
Mexican.
Done.
Italian.
Right.
Love a good burger.
You do love a good burger. I thought you would have said Indian.
I do love Indian, but I mean a good burger. You make the best chicken burgers ever.
Thank you very much. Yes, I've discovered I'm very good at comfort food.
You actually are very good. He makes good pizza, good pasta, good burgers.
I spent like 2 days making dough. I mean, I make it over the space of 5 hours. It rests the rest of the time. The lazy bastard. Dough is so lazy. But yeah, I've realised that's my calling, is being good at comfort food,
But that's what's good. It makes people happy.
So great. I did a great, salad tonight, Mexican salad.
We did have Mexican salad. It was so good.
With a wee bit of coriander and lime juice and deliciousness.
We are coriander people.
Oh.
Sorry if you're a coriander.
Sorry if you're a soap mouth.
That's your problem, not mine.
We are coriandrites.
Good coriander.
You like coriander.
What's your favourite herb?
Dill.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Dill.
You can't go past dill.
Dill.
I feel like dill is very underrated. Like, no one ever
is.
talks about it. It's always about basil, which is delicious.
Dill, that's pretty good.
But-
or like parsley, because it goes into
Do people
everything.
like is that a favourite
Yeah,
thing?
yeah, no, it goes in everything. Pasta dishes, everything.
True. But dill
Mint is awesome. But
is
dill's
so
incredible.
good.
So good. Yeah, dill's incredible.
Norman likes dill. He likes to eat it all from the garden. It's
does.
really annoying.
He nicks the dill.
And the coriander. He's also a coriander.
And the
eater.
marigolds.
And the marigolds. Prick.
What tell me this, we'll get back on to other stuff. What, like, since you've started what is now Rose Thorn, so this
Yeah.
obviously includes Wick and Sage, but what are you most proud of since you started? Because it has been
It's evolved a lot, hasn't it?
it's been an evolution. It's also been a long road, and it's also taken a few twists and turns. But like, what are you most proud of? Or what's your proudest moment, even?
I always feel the most proud when I get a message from someone and they say, I, you know, am just going on this path, or I, you know, they can be anywhere, like as advanced as whatever. But the people that go, you know, you really made me feel like really positive about who I am, about being a witch, about this community. I really feel like you understand me. I feel like I'm safe in a safe place. Like that, to have created, and this is what I wanted from the very beginning, is to create something that makes people feel completely normal, completely safe, somewhere where they can go and learn and have fun, and it's like a really happy, positive, you know, community. And so to have people message me and like say, thank you so much for giving that safety to me, or that happiness, or, you know, this made me smile, or whatever, to be able to impact someone in that way, I think is like, oh, it's why you do it. Like, yeah, you can earn money and you can, you know, get all these followers and whatever, and that obviously is all part of it. But to like actually make a difference in someone's life who has been going through who knows what, or who feels completely alone, or, you know, is feeling something that all of us have felt at some point, and to have been able to contribute to someone's life who I don't even know, it means the most to me. Like, that is the most fulfilling thing I get. And even to this day, when I get messages, I'm always like, oh my God, that's so nice. And I'll always read them to you, and like they give me the biggest boost out of anything, I think.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's really beautiful, because I mean, as much as, you know, you refer to it as a business a lot, it's
more than that.
It's actually not.
It was in the beginning, but now it's evolved into something even more than that.
Yeah, and it definitely has evolved into you know, a place, like a spiritual place where people can meet. And, you know, I mean, it says at the start of the podcast, you say it every week when people listen to this podcast.
Your cabin in the woods.
It's just it's creating a safe space, and, you know, I think setting out to sort of normalize something that is usually judged, or people are discriminated against in that sense, you know, discriminated against, and maybe that's a bit of the wrong phrase, but definitely judged and definitely treated like you're a freak or an outcast because of pure sort of ignorance, really. And it's not their fault. It's no one's fault that they don't know these things. You know, it's kind of like someone saying, oh, Muslims are terrorists, and you're like, wow, that's completely ignorant. You know, that they've been around for ever. And you know what I mean, like, and have always been a part of society, and there's never been that thought about them until, you know, all the shit kicked off. But, you know, creating a place where you can normalize that for people is a beautiful thing.
And I think, like, everyone just wants to be understood, and everyone just wants to be heard. So I think when you feel like you are, it's a very, like, uplifting and freeing thing. And the thing is as much as I have given people confidence or that feeling of being understood or whatever, like, everyone has also given that to me. So, like, when I get those messages, that's like me getting confirmation. That's me getting heard and understood. So it's like not just me being like the head honcho. It's like we're all in this together. So whatever I give you, you know, you're also giving me. So I think it's like a really nice, it's a nice, you know, it's a nice community to be a part of, because it's just like constantly giving, and, you know.
That's beautiful. You're beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
What do you love most about me?
God.
Sorry, hold on. Don't know why that keeps popping up. What book are you reading at the moment?
I've got like probably like 7 books going. I'm still reading. It's right here, Fairy Magic by Aurora Kane. I've been so bad with reading lately just because I've been so bloody tired.
So, for those of you who don't know,
I'm 28 weeks pregnant. Have no iron.
have no
Like
iron.
literally no iron.
I think, what do you meant? What's the ideal? Is like between...
So normal levels of iron are between 60 and 40. I'm sorry, 140, and I have 5.
But funny, well, it's not funny. A few weeks ago, Amy had a blood test, and they went, in order to qualify for a blood an iron transfusion, you need to be sitting at 31, and she was at 33. And then 3 weeks later, she comes in at 5, and they went, "Oh shit!
I showed you.
We better get." Yeah, what were you doing? Were you at the back bleeding yourself?
Pretty much.
just to get it out.
So my reading hasn't been very good, but I am reading that still, and I love it so much because very like Beltane vibes. We're about to go into Beltane, fairy vibes. Also, I'm reading, what's it called? It's a book about Hecate. It's called like Keeping
The Keys.
Keeping Her Keys or something. I'm also reading that. I just totally butchered the name. I know that's wrong. Something like that. I'm reading that. But I think I'm going to start all the practical magic books again. Because I love them.
How many times have you read the Harry Potter series?
Oh, Harry Potter. Like 5, 6, 7.
The series. You've read them. That's crazy.
I know, it's so good.
The only time I really read books is when I record audiobooks.
Yeah, you're not a good reader. And you're missing out so much because you have a creative mind. And I feel like
I know, but
it would feed your mind so much because reading is so awesome.
I know. But this isn't about me and what I'm missing out on in life.
We'll talk about this later.
What do you love most about me? What alright, so I'm curious about this as well.
Okay.
But what what is coming up, and what does the future look like for you and for Rosethorn Cottage and for your followers and subscribers and all the people that listen to this podcast? What have you got in the works, and what can people look forward to?
Well, one thing, and this is like, we were talking about this before, as like the whole like fear of judgment and what will people think and blah 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 blah. And what's that term called where you feel like you don't deserve it or you don't belong? Like, you know what
Imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome. Sometimes I get like this. And this is about my book, which has been a goal for, forever.
Forever.
Like, I've always loved writing. I've always been very creative.
I must say this. You're a fucking good writer.
Thank you.
And if you ever read Amy's very long posts, you'll get a wee taste of that. Yeah, you're a good writer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So my big goal is I want to write a book. I want to write all about seasonal witchery because that's like my passion and basically who I am and what kind of witch I identify as. And so I really want to do that. But I have also worked through am I going to be good enough? Who am I to write a book? What if people don't like it? All the crap that goes through your mind. And now I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, whatever. Just write the damn book because no one's going to judge something that doesn't exist. And you know what? There will be people that judge it.
Yep.
Because I'm not for everyone, and who cares? At least
Totally.
I know I did it.
7.5 billion people.
So many people.
And in 120 years, all of us will be
And
dead.
I don't like every witchcraft book or every bloody whatever, we don't have to like everything.
Nope.
So that's just something I've had to get over. So the book is the big thing. Obviously, there is a baby coming very soon. I know, right? I'm not just gaining weight for no reason. Yes, I am eating more chocolate, but it's for a reason.
Yeah, because he likes chocolate.
So yes, the book is the next big thing.
Give birth.
Give birth. I really want to work more with my Patreon people because they're awesome. You've met a lot of them. Patty's jumped on lives before with them, and they are so good. And I love being able to like kind of deep dive more into magical stuff and like build that community, and like we have lots of fun there and fun chats, and it's like becoming this really supportive
It's a nice little community. And then and obviously with that, they deserve
more
the extra
me.
bonusy bits.
Yes. So I really want to push more there, and obviously because I have such a creative mind, and I love Instagram because you can create like little videos and photos, but it's becoming it's those people that work with social media accounts know that it can be a real like pain in the butt.
It ends up being.
There's just so much.
Sorry, that's very.
I'm sorry, am I boring you?
I'm not at all. I am also tired.
There's so much politics, and you need to do this then, and if you say this, they're going to ban you, and there's like all this crap that comes with it.
Oh, but right.
I really want to move into, obviously I'm going to stay there, but go into YouTube so I can create, I can get all that like beautiful stuff that's in my brain that I see all around where I live and like throw it in there. And
good.
It's just out there,
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So YouTube, book, baby.
Just a couple of things.
And Patreon, definitely. I mean,
Patreon's fun.
Well, yeah, and also, like you say, if everyone deserves more of you, but if people are supporting you with what you're trying to do, then they deserve a wee bit more support back. And I suppose that's where the 5-week rotation from the shop came from, was to allow yourself more time to do all that kind of jazz. Yeah,
totally.
All right, great. We're on the home stretch. Okay. Amy Harvey. And I haven't deviated. I
was expecting a few more like corkers. I thought you'd want to make me cry. It's not hard to
How
do.
could I have done that?
I don't know, like throw in an emotional question or something.
I did. I said, how do you feel about me?
Oh, but that deserves a whole podcast. So much to say.
What would make you cry?
I don't know. I cry at everything.
No, I don't want to make you cry. What's your nighttime routine like? Not on a podcast night.
So, I love one thing that is like my absolute favorite thing ever is to end the day with a bath. I love I've always been extremely connected with water. As a fire sign, I feel like it balances me out. So throughout the day, I can get very intense, and my brain gets very intense. That's why probably a lot of fire signs have anxiety, because I'm so like all day. And I feel like when I go into the bath, it just like quietens down. It's like when you have the candle and you push it out and the smoke goes, it's like that. Just like calms me down and brings me back down to earth. And I feel like that kind of like, not only is it very cleansing as well, because you put salt and like I have a whole bath thing that I do.
I know.
But
and it's very picturesque.
It's so good. It cleanses me, it restarts me so I can like have a really beautiful sleep, because to me sleep is so important. So yes, I always love to have a bath. Ideally, I would like to read, but that's not been happening because I then fall into a coma. But I think if I'm going to do anything, it would be have a bath. That's probably my only nighttime thing, really.
Okay, and you also have to give me a kiss.
Yes.
All right, I'm just gonna fire at some getting to know you questions.
Yes.
So let's go.
Let's go.
If you could be anywhere in the world right now, where would it be? Go.
There's too many places, but obviously I really want to go to Disneyland. But I would love to go like Scandinavia, like Norway, Sweden, go into the forest, look at the northern lights, just be a total like Yona Yinton
Yes.
wild witch.
Done. Favorite movie you could watch over and over again and never get sick of?
Practical Magic. 100%.
Yeah.
I also really, really love The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Walter Mitty, sorry.
If you haven't seen
Oh my god.
The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, you
It'll
must.
change
You
you.
simply
It's
must.
just the most like beautiful movie. As in, like it's about this guy who lives in a life that's so same every
Mundane.
day, very mundane. But he has this brain that transports him where he's a superhero or he's fighting a shark or whatever because he's so desperate to break free from his box. And then he slowly does. As the movie progresses, you'll see how. And he travels to all these amazing places like Greenland and Afghanistan and somewhere else. Iceland, all these crazy places. And he starts to unravel and become this like new version of himself.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
It's a great film. So it's based on a story from years ago, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and Ben Stiller directed it, and he's in it. And
I did judge it before I had seen it because, like, I like Ben Stiller as like Zoolander. He can be good.
And also because you judge my suggestions of films all the
We
time.
have different ideas of what a comedy is.
Yeah, but one of my suggestions is
One of
your
us-
favorite film.
I know, but he's not funny in it. He's not
No.
funny. He's like
He has moments of funniness,
Yeah, he
but
does.
he is.
It's actually the characters around him that are funny, but he is
He's
amazing.
brilliant.
He's just so. Oh my god, it's just such a good movie.
so good.
Yes, and also one more, Christopher Robin.
Oh, with Ewan
Oh
McGregor.
my god, that movie makes me cry from happiness. Like, it's so beautiful. Like, Winnie the Pooh is like one of my favorite things ever, and it's like the things he says are so beautiful and innocent and simple, but also so deep at the same time. And I cry the whole movie.
It's a pretty good film.
It's so
And
good.
So yeah, it's so cute.
Oh my god.
The way he says, "Oh yeah," you gotta watch it.
Yeah.
It's
so good.
so good.
Oh my god.
And the funny thing was when we watched it was during lockdown. And
On my birthday.
Yes, but remember we started to watch it and the kids were too young and they just went nah, because it was
Yeah.
live action.
So then they were at daycare and it was pouring with rain outside. We had a fire going. We were in lockdowns. We had nowhere to be, and it was my birthday, and we had a cheese
I know,
plate.
and they opened daycare.
Yeah,
but we-
daycare was still open at this point.
And we had a 5K radius still around.
Yeah, we were in the bubble,
Yeah.
but they could go. And Poppy was at kinder before they shut everything down. And so we watched it,
Yeah.
and I cried the whole
It
time.
was the best.
And it was the best.
It was the best.
It was so
Name a book that changed your life.
good. I would say Harry Potter.
Okay.
Because one, it says that witches and wizards are not a bad thing. They weren't the bad. Obviously, there was a baddie, but they weren't bad. They were normal. They did normal things just like us. But also, as a kid, because I started reading it as it first came out, I was the same age as Harry Potter when the first book came out. And to me, it was like it infused our world with magic. Like, even to this day, any like Harry Potter movie or whatever, I know people have a thing against J.K. Rowling now, and I get that, but you have to at least admit she has infused our world with magic. And I think, like, what a gift, you know, like her creative brain gave us so much. And as a kid, it changed my life because it just, like, you just were transported somewhere amazing. And I think that's such a gift to be able to do that for somebody.
Mm.
So, yeah, definitely that. And it's bloody good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, good movies too.
We've just been watching Fantastic Beasts. Yeah. And it's so good.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's awesome. It's like total escapism.
Mm.
What animal do you have a spiritual connection to? What type of animal?
You do agree that in a past life I was probably a cat?
Oh, 100%.
Because I can be very like if you, it's like, you know, if you hug a cat for too long, they will bite you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you can hug me, but if it's like for too long, I'm like, okay, that's enough. But I'll come to you, and that's fine. Like, you know, I have my own kind of like rules, and if you have to like live by that, and if you don't,
I'll claw your
go
eyes out.
away. So there is that connection, but let me think. When I remember I did my like deep travel into finding a spirit animal guide, and I had a deer, like a reindeer,
Oh yeah.
and I've always found them to be so majestic, and yeah, I've always been really connected with them. So maybe that
Nice.
as well.
Yeah, like stag or like any sort of
like a
reindeer type animal.
yeah, no, more a stag, I'd
Like
say.
or like yeah, they got the big.
I feel like that would be my Patronus.
Nice. And they're beautiful. Yeah.
They're so beautiful.
Amy, what does happiness look like to you?
I don't know how people answer this question because it is quite a hard one. Because you want to give a good answer, don't you?
It's like giving a speech at the Oscars. You want to include everyone.
Yeah, I know.
You want to say all the right things.
You want to sound really like deep as well.
Yeah.
Happiness. What does happiness look like to me? I feel like there's like so many versions of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like to me, happiness is like when, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to articulate it properly. Let me think about it. I feel like there's like little things that give me happiness. It's like when the kids are giggling, and even though they've been so annoying, they have this giggle together, and you go, that's like, it just like warms your heart. Or when you've had a day where everything's just like chilled, there's no real issues, everything is where it should be. That's kind of happiness as well. But I think to me actually, when I'm like at the beach in the ocean and everything is like quiet and peaceful and calm, that's happiness as well. So I guess my answer is there's like so many different versions and so many different snapshots of what happiness is, and it hits you in so many different ways. I know that's kind of like the most abstract way of answering it.
No, I think.
But it's those like little moments. I think little moments people often shrug them off, but they're so good. It's even waking up in the morning on my ideal morning, and it's quiet and the birds are chirping and I have that first sip of coffee. That's happiness, because all the big stuff overcomplicates things, but when you have these like little simple moments, they are the ones you often remember as well. You know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the thing. It can be anything. It can be, what does ultimate happiness look like? Oh, well, it's, you know.
Yeah, what does that even look like?
Well,
life is made up of little moments, you know? So
yeah.
I think if you can find lots of little moments that make you happy, then you're pretty much going to be happy all the time, or a lot of the time.
Well, what does success look like?
Well, that's hard because you have people who go next, you know?
What do you mean?
Like they achieve what success is and they go next.
Yeah, but what's success though?
feeling content, maybe. I don't know.
See, you use that word a lot. I don't like the word content.
I like...
Content means, like, for me, it means settle. See, success for me looks like happiness. If I'm happy, I'm successful.
But to me, content is like breathing easy, knowing that all is well, which is also happiness.
But I think you're right, though. Happiness is not one thing. It's moments.
It's lots of little things.
Are, mashed together, create an overall sense.
Because if there's only one big thing that you see as happiness, it's also probably a rare thing and something you have to really, really, really work to get. But if you are surrounded by little things that make you happy, then you'd be happy all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's yours?
I'm not getting interviewed.
There you go.
What's my one? What does happiness look like to me?
Yeah.
I think you're right. Like we were walking. Remember, we were walking. It was autumn, and we were walking through that park. I don't know where it was around here. It's like a forest, and there's leaves everywhere. We were in trees, and you're right. Everyone was just happy, and everyone was playing and giggling, and I had this moment of what you would describe as bliss, where there was no problems. There was nothing bothering me. It's not like, I got that pain in my foot or my toe, or I have to do the thing when we leave here, or oh shit, I forgot to turn the light switch off, or anything like that. These little things, or oh, that person's bugging me. Nothing was wrong. Everything was perfect. And I remember I turned around to you and I gave you a kiss, and I felt that was happy. And there's little moments like that, like when we were away pre-kids, whenever I took you away to Bali.
Yeah.
We were in the pool and we looked, and I said, take a mental snapshot of this moment, because when we go back and we get into work and all the shit happens again,
This is a happy place.
close your eyes and imagine this moment where it was like 11 in the morning. We'd had 2 cocktails, some bruschetta, and we were floating in the pool, and we looked up at the palm trees and just went, take a mental snapshot of this image. And I still go back to that moment.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think moments like that are what make happiness.
Yeah.
And create happiness.
Because you can recreate them every day. You, like, to me, you go, if I have like a fresh bunch of flowers, that makes me really happy. So I know that I can do that all the time. I can have that, and
That's
that will always
adorable.
make me happy.
A fresh bunch.
Or every morning you start the day with that
So
coffee
cute.
that makes you really happy.
Yeah.
Or you put on one of those movies that make you smile because they're your favorite,
Well, that's another one. Is like, no offense, but like on a Friday or whatever, if I'm having a glass of wine and you I'm gonna go to bed, and I go, I'm not even tired. I'm gonna sit up and watch a movie by myself. Oh,
It's cool. It's just,
Yeah.
it's lots of little things, I think.
I like that. And of course, we got married and the kids are born and all.
And all those things.
And all
make
those
me
things.
happy.
No, but seriously. So there you go. There's the episode. I actually think we should do another one of these, and I'll just ask you really emotional questions, and hopefully you'll cry. We'll do part 2. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Amy.
Thank you for having me on my podcast.
It was lovely to meet you, and I'm really impressed by some of your answers.
Really? Thank
Not
you.
all of them, but
which ones?
some. We'll get into that later. But thank you very much for coming, and thank you for your time. I understand you're very busy and you're very low on iron, so I
Yes.
appreciate the time.
This will change tomorrow.
Iron infusion.
All changes tomorrow. As
yeah.
you're listening to this podcast, I will be getting iron.
Getting juiced up.
Next week, I'm going to be on fire.
Yeah. But really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you answering some questions, being so open, being so honest. And yeah, you're really beautiful, and I'd like to take you out sometime.
Sure.
That was easy. Thanks for coming along for the ride, everyone. And if you didn't like this podcast, keep it to yourself. And if you did, tell everyone.
Yeah, tell everyone.
Tell everyone. Shout it from the rooftops. Again, it doesn't matter.
We won't judge you.
No.
Only if you write mean things.
Not us.
Then I'm going to judge you.
So badly. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
We will speak to you all very soon.
Bye.
Mwah.
Cue and music.
Molto bene, grazie.